When that storm came in, instead of having just miles and miles of marsh, that water could come in much more easily because over the years it had been modified. So I don't want to get too caught up here, but I do want you to look at this. This is not sand like you think of on most beaches. This is
nothing but shell.
This is coquina. This is what St. Augustine is built out of. And when this stuff gets underneath, tons and tons of sand, and the lime from seashells is there, it tends to stick together and form coquina rock. And you can then dig down in the ground and mine it. And so
this is really weathered.
Yeah. So this is what St. Augustine is built out of. This rock, you think of this as rock. It's actually sawed up into blocks, and when you walk down St. George Street in St. Augustine, and you see this shell-looking block, it's basically coquina dug out of the ground. It's been cemented together.
Some of the houses and buildings have the coquina in St. Augustine also.
Yeah, now they build and they spray this stuff like a stucco on the outside.
It's a facade.
But it's a great look, and you never have to paint it. And now, even in the plantation days when they were trying to build around here without any real native rock in most places, they created a shell called tabby. Have you seen tabby? It's oyster shell in lime and sand baked, and it looks just like coquina, only you see the big oyster shell sticking out. And that was called tabby, and it was used for hundreds of years because it was just the natural stuff you could gather.
How durable is it?
Very, very, yeah.
As good as the brick and, yeah.
Very. Only it's actually produced as opposed to being dug up and mined. So if you go to, where's the source? If you go to Jacksonville Beach, what's the beach look like there?
It's more fine.
It's more sand like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the source of that sand? Where did it come from originally?
From out in the ocean.
No, it doesn't come from out in the ocean. It comes from.
No, it doesn't come from shit either.
Yes, it does. At one point in time, it was poop.
Well, when they dredge it, don't they dredge it up and replenish it?
Well,
it is,
it's
but
eroded mountain.
Yeah.
Where it was
So if you think of all the water, all of the rivers, if you look on a map of Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, it's river after river after river after river coming all the way from the Piedmont.
Through the mountains.
So all that sand is coming out the ocean, and then which way is the current flow on the east coast? North-south. So the current right here is predominantly north-south. So all of that sand. See, how many rivers come out here from here to Miami to the ocean? Zero. But north of here, there are hundreds of rivers. So all that sand is floating down and being put up on the beach. But as you get towards South Florida, the sand runs out, and now you're building out of coquina, or in Miami it would be coral. So it's seashell, so it's marine life. And so that's highly marine life oriented or origin. And north of here is much more and more and more sand. By the way, part of this preserve, if you have some time over the holidays and want to take a drive, about 30 miles south of here, there's a national, park, some kind of national park. It's called the Washington Oaks Gardens. I guess it's a state park, Washington Oaks Gardens. Well, on this side is beautiful forests and the oldest orange grove in the state. On the ocean side, it's a rocky beach where the coquina rock is sticking out of the sand. Have any of you ever seen it? But
no.
You go down, it's one of 3 rocky beaches in Florida. And you go down on the beach and you can see tidal pools and starfish and sea anemones. Now, it sticks up about 5-6 feet high, but it's really cool. It's all been eroded and sculpted by the ocean, by the waves, just south of Marineland, just a few miles south of Marineland, the old Marineland.
I have a question about the sand, real quick. How does that affect the different types of quality of the sand between here and down south? If our sand's coming from mountains and then down south it's coming more from corals, fineness of the sand, or are there different nutrient levels that are from the minerals that are being washed up between mountain and coral?
Well, yeah.
Calcium.
The coral is primarily calcium carbonate, and you can just take some acid and just put a little acid on it. If we took that sand and poured acid on it, you get very little bubbling.
Right.
If you took stuff down in, say, the Keys, it would just be this foamy mass, and it's because it's all calcium carbonate. So
is that the difference in the color too? Why the beaches are white and sandy,
and then there's dark,
and then
beaches,
it's more
kind of
darker.
beige.
More.
That's what I was asking.
As further north you go, the darker the color of the sand.
But as far as nutrient, neither one has any nutrient to speak of. So it all has to be actually created from the life itself. So you get life that can live on almost nothing. The nutrient here that you get is mostly dying animals washing up and mostly dying seaweed.
Jellyfish.
So when you're on like the islands and stuff like that have like the volcano and the dark
black sand,
that comes from the volcanic activity.
Ash.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like Guatemala. I happened to go there on my honeymoon. Long story. Neat, just absolutely glossy black sand. I did a stupid thing. I took my shoes off and ran toward the water on a hot summer day, and I got about halfway. It was so hot. I'm going. I didn't know which way to run. But I never thought about it being like 150 degrees. But we're going to see some endangered species today. But I want you to keep in mind that one of them is, of course, the sea turtle population, and 3 or 4 species of sea turtles nest here, and there's a really good St. Johns County organization that protects those nests. You've all seen the boxes around them, have you?
Yeah.
The flags, and then people actually come out during the hatching season and actually take the hatchlings and help them get to the water so they don't get confused by the street lights.
Milano Beach did that. It's blocked off a lot.
Do they just block the lights or actually physically?
Well, in some places.
No, he's still here. Just hanging.
Oh, I see him.
Oh, yeah. It's right there.
Brave. You probably can't see anything.
Oh, I see him.
Now they spit poison, so don't get too close.
Baby armadillo.
Video, I guess I can.
Right. Hey guys, he's dancing.
He's dancing. He's doing the armadillo dance.
He pulled out his top hat and his cane.
So he's going in his hole.
Oh,
Is he actually going in the hole?
Yeah, well, he's got his head in there.
Yeah.
He's thinking about it.
I think he's trying to take a poop.
He's right on the hell.
These buds get burned and killed. So over the years, the buds on the right side of that tree are growing, and these are all sheared off.
Okay.
So it's not the tree blown over, it's the tree grew like this. Because these are always killed.
Being eaten by the salt. Okay.
Yeah. You follow? Okay. Every time a branch tries to go in the direction of the salt, it gets killed. So these branches grow, these branches grow, these branches grow. Okay. But that tree started out going straight up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know, like in Spain, they're not as big, they're shorter.
Yeah.
But they do branch out like that, real low. And I know I got hit by one on a horse once.
You can have the same thing happen. Just
Is that ice? It's acrylic. Oh.
You know, it's like so.
I have an owl that lives in my front yard.
Owl?
An owl. Keeps me up at night.
Yeah, I've got one too.
Yeah.
They get pretty radical sometimes.
They're loud.
Yeah, when they're mating, they do this. You ever hear them do this? They start out with a whoo, then they go.
Most people think
Men just walk in and walk right out.
Okay, yeah, I know. Well, let's get going, guys. Just want to mention that this is really the Maritime Forest, and it's many times right immediately behind the dunes. Only that's such a narrow band of barrier islands that it doesn't have a chance to develop. So these trees are still being pruned by salt spray. You see behind you here how they appear to be leaning away from the water behind you here. That's not because the tree's leaning. That's because the ocean side of the tree gets burned by the salt. And so over the years, the buds that are away from the ocean grow more than the buds toward the ocean. So a lot of these, you probably saw coming down A1A, all the trees look like they're rounded, okay? The indicator species here are oaks, mostly live oak and water oak. Magnolia, I'm going to ask you on your test about what some indicator species are of these different communities. A lot of you did these in your reports, so you know your area, whether it be dunes or forest or marsh or estuary. Here's an interesting thing that's going on right now.
And then reach down in the bottom and grab.
And I don't know if you've noticed this, but all through the city there's a tree that's dying. Does anybody know what it is? There's a tree dying all over the southeast United States. No, there it is right there.
Cypress.
And all through the city, you can look in the woods, and about every 50th tree will be a little tree. It's a bay. It's a red bay.
It's because of the bugs.
Yeah. They're being killed by insects. Matter of fact, there's an organization now collecting seeds from the ones that are still alive, so that when they all die off, they're going to replant them, which is really cool. This is another kind of bay which only grows on the ocean front. It's called shore bay, and this is in the same family. Have a whiff. Just like the bay leaves you put in shrimp, seafood. Okay, but it's different enough from the other bay that it's surviving and the other one's not. But as we walk through this maritime forest, you'll see occasionally some trees like that are obviously dead. So
like the bay leaf? Can you use it like the bay leaf?
Yeah, you can dry that out and use it just like a bay leaf.
Wow.
Anybody want to smell? Okay. So indicator species here would be live oak, bay. Back in there you'll see magnolia, cedar. We just walked by a big cedar somewhere in here. Oh, right back there next to the road, evergreen cedar. Okay. Deer, whitetail deer love this in here. Now you might see.
I mean, are those palmettos back over here?
Palmettos, yep. Okay. This looks like it's been abandoned, but that is a species in this area because of the nice high old dunes that we're on.
Armadillo take over.
Yeah, this doesn't look like it's been used.
No, it doesn't. Looks like it's still in with leaves. Well over 100 years old.
Look how thick it is.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we kicked up the dust, didn't we?
Yeah,
you may want to walk along the side of the road if you're getting tired of the dust. But that's a beautiful.
That is a beautiful.
That's not a longleaf pine either. That's not the biggest pine we have. That looks like a loblolly pine. Maybe 10 or so feet in altitude, and we have a little swale here. That's a little marsh. And you find standing water here usually, but we've been so dry that I'm sure there's nothing there now. But so this is obviously more of a grassland here. But the way these dune ridges run, parallel with the ocean, you'll get a dune, and occasionally you'll get a swale or sort of a freshwater marsh. There are also some lakes that some of them are big enough to form lakes. I have not studied this. I don't know what the key species are here, but it's just interesting how you get this total change in the environment here. I want to stop again when we get to, there are some pine flatwoods out here too, where you're just on old ocean. Ecotone, you'll have a higher diversity of plants and animals because you have two different communities overlapping.
Do they create their own?
What else?
You go first. Oh, I was going to say, so ecotones is where two communities overlap. Does that create its own community in itself, or is it still...
It basically is two communities overlap, so you have members of both community living in the same area in that border area.
Okay.
So it's not like somebody,
But they're not definitive of their own community. They're still parts of other communities just overlapping.
Yeah, it just happens to be the edge effect.
So here is a hardwood hammock, and
this is I would call this a marsh or a grass savanna here. And I don't know it enough to know just how much, but it looks to me like there would be water standing here normally. a little too wet for. You can see where the pines